Let's start in Gauteng, where the Premier David Makhura says the high unemployment rate continues to be a major concern. He says it requires an emergency response similar to the one given to the COVID-19 pandemic. Makhura outlined his plans for the province during the State of the Province address earlier on. Well, eNCA's Pule Letshwiti Jones has been following that story and joins us now for an update from the speech there delivered by Premier David Makhura. So he says, does Premier Makhura, Pule, the unemployment situation should be treated as an emergency the same way that COVID-19 was treated as an emergency when it first broke out in South Africa. You'll find few who will argue with that contention.
Very much so, Tulas, particularly some of the key words being highlighted, the emergency and crisis, saying that the COVID-19 pandemic has had a knock-on effect on the economy of the province as well. But others may argue otherwise, saying some of the, the establishments, the special economic zones that the Premier highlighted have been there even prior COVID-19, and they're saying that there is a serious need to implement and rather have some investment to ensure that the unemployment crisis in the province can be resolved immediately. The weather's a bit bad. It's about to rain. I think it's started raining right now. So I'm just going to quickly get reaction from the IFP, ANC, and of course the DA as well. Joining me right now is the Provincial Secretary of the ANC, Mr. Jacob Kawe. Thank you very much. Much has been said about the state of the province address, but other opposition parties are saying it's the same rhetoric without strategic implementations of how some of these emergencies and crises the Premier has mentioned will be resolved.
We as ANC welcome the fact that he gave an account on management of COVID, and that 2 years cannot be undermined. It did destabilize, but it also gave us new opportunities and imposed this threat we're talking about. The investment fund in CDB cannot be treated as a slogan. It has never been there. It's bringing together business people, both local and international, and to unlock that economy would actually have been building the Gauteng economy. The SEZ in Tshwane, its practical program launched with a budget that cannot be treated as rhetoric. The intervention on youth, and the youth in the province has been crying about the impact of SOPA 1 million, but now at least there is a structural improvement. The establishment of a council of young people to advise all government departments, the establishment of a directorate in the office of the Premier. This has not been said in previous statements. So therefore, we as ANC were convinced that there is something. However, we're still pleading that speed, implementation should be key rather than pronouncements.
Would you say there's a need for investments, particularly in the province, when we see the unemployment rate sitting at about 37%, which is quite high and scary, like some opposition parties have mentioned as well?
Yes. I think he emphasized that point, that there is a crisis on unemployment, poverty, and that's why there's that intervention on food, hospitality industry, to bring together an approach around how do we utilize the township economic opportunities to change the situation in our township. It is known where the poverty is now, and that's why it is important to invite communities in our province to participate in the township bill, which seeks to give new bylaws to enable small business people to strive. For now, most of these people are affected by the type of bylaws we have in our province.
Mr. Kawa, thank you very much. Let me just speak to some of the opposition party leaders as well, because I see the weather is getting a bit out of hand. Mr. Dlamini from the IFP, thank you very much for joining us. Now, you've raised some critical issues as well, saying there were quite some loopholes that you feel the Premier did not address during the SOPA again today.
Oh yes, his theme was that from public health emergency to economic recovery emergency, but in the speech there are no emergency measures to deal with the crisis, the pandemic that we are dealing with now of youth unemployment and the poverty in our townships. So I did not see any, I just saw reports and promises. Like for instance, the Premier reported that there are 700,000 young people who have been touched by SOPA 1 million. But I, as the chairperson of OCPOL, which the Premier reports to, I still need to see one beneficiary from that program.
Tell us about the housing issues. Well, I've seen as well, there's been reports about some of community members complaining about the lack of infrastructure, just like the Premier said, particularly with the hospitals as well, that haven't been receiving assistance, they haven't been getting help to, refix their hostels. What can you say about that?
Well, that has been said from 1994, that hostel will be fixed and will be, it's the song that we have been singing. I still need to see now the commitment from government to change the people's life of hostels, because hostel people are also residents of this province, they are also citizens of this country, they deserve to live better, not like pigs. But he has announced that the 6 hostels that they own as the province, which is your George Bock cluster, they're going to, in this financial year, they're going to look at that. I still have to see that happening.
So, Dlamini, thank you very much. I'll be with you just now, but let me just introduce the DA here, Tula, just the last guest before I throw it back to you, Solimsimanga as well. Now, you've been quite vocal about the previous SOPA State of the Province addresses, particularly in 2014 and in 2018. The issue of lifestyle audits has been mentioned, but there's still quite concerns around how corruption will be curbed in the province, particularly looking at the COVID-19 PPE report, which Gauteng extensively appeared a lot, where officials are implicated in most of these corruption allegations.
Well, I'm not holding my breath on whether we will be getting anywhere with the lifestyle audits, especially with those that are supposed to have been done by the executive. He talks about an interview that they've all conducted with authorities, but those are not lifestyle audits. Lifestyle audits is somebody coming in and looking at what you earn and what your life is like and what you own and how you able to then justify what you own and all of that. That is not what he spoke about today is not something that we can then clearly say that there's a lifestyle audit that has been done. That's number one. Number two.
All right. We have to leave that conversation there. Pule, we'll let you continue your conversation with Solimsimanga out there after the delivery of the State of the Province address.